Hello and welcome to Sarah and Paul Conversation. In today's episode, Sarah and Paul are going to explore three beautiful ways to talk about the past in English: used to, would for past habits, and would have. These expressions let you speak about old routines, nostalgic memories, and things that might have been. Learners often mix them up, but after today, everything will feel much clearer. Here we go.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Sarah and Paul Conversation. We are so glad you're here with us today.
Hello everyone. You know, today's topic is one of my personal favorites because we're talking about the past, and I think talking about the past is one of the most beautiful, most human things we can do in any language.
I love that. The past is full of stories, memories, regret, and nostalgia. And English has some really lovely tools for capturing all of that.
Exactly. Today we're looking at three of them: used to, would when talking about past habits, and would have. Let's start with used to because it's probably the most familiar of the three.
Used to is for things that were true in the past but are no longer true today. And that's the key. There's always a contrast with the present, even when it's not stated directly. I used to live in London. I don't anymore. She used to be very shy. She isn't now. We used to have a dog. We don't anymore.
And you feel that contrast even without the second part, don't you? I used to love this song, and maybe now you don't feel the same about it. I used to run every morning, and now you don't. The used to already does the work of signaling things have changed.
Exactly. And that's what gives used to its nostalgic quality. There's something wistful about it. Something that says, time has passed. Things were different then. And sometimes that feeling is warm, like looking at an old photo. And sometimes it's a little sad. I used to have so much energy. I used to believe everything would work out perfectly.
And used to covers both habits and states, which is really important. I used to eat a lot of junk food. That's a habit. I used to be really nervous about speaking English. That's a state, how someone was. Both are perfectly fine with used to.
And in questions, did you used to? Note carefully, it's did you used to, not did you used to. In the question form, the did already carries the past meaning, so the main verb goes back to use, without the D. Did you used to play a sport as a child? What did you used to do at weekends when you were young?
And in the negative, I didn't used to like spicy food. I didn't used to enjoy exercise. Again, didn't used to, not didn't used to. The ed comes from used to as a fixed phrase. It's not an added past tense ending.
Now, what about would for past habits? Because this is where it gets really interesting.
Yes. Would can also be used to describe things you did repeatedly in the past, things that happened regularly as part of a routine or a pattern. Every Sunday we would go to my grandmother's house. He would always bring flowers when he visited. In the summer we would sit outside until it got dark. These are all repeated past actions.
So would sounds quite similar to used to in those examples.
It does. And in many cases you can swap them. Every Sunday we used to go to my grandmother's house. Both are correct and both mean the same thing. But here's the crucial difference. Would cannot be used for past states, only for past actions, past habits.
Oh, this is so important. So you can say I used to love jazz because that's a state, a feeling. But you cannot say I would love jazz in this context. That would mean something completely different. It would sound like a conditional.
Exactly. Would is only for things you did repeatedly, not for things you were, felt, believed, or had. You can't say I would live near the sea for a past state, or she would have long hair, describing how she used to look. Or they would own a beautiful house. Those are states, so you must use used to. I used to live near the sea. She used to have long hair. They used to own a beautiful house.
So the rule is repeated past actions, used to or would, past states, only used to. That's really the key.
Exactly. And would for past habits sounds particularly beautiful in storytelling. When you're describing someone's character or telling someone about your childhood, the would form adds warmth, a sense of something remembered with love or affection. My father would always sing in the kitchen on Sunday mornings. My grandmother would make fresh bread every Saturday. My old neighbor would stop to talk to everyone he passed on the street.
I get a whole image from those sentences. You can picture the kitchen, the Sunday morning, the smell of fresh bread. Would makes the past feel vivid.
That's exactly it. It's not just reporting facts, and it's painting pictures. Evoking a feeling, that's the real power of would for past habits. Now let's talk about would have, because this one is a slightly different creature.
Would've is used in two main ways. The first is in conditional sentences, what we sometimes call the third conditional. If I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam. If she had left earlier, she would have caught the train. If they had listened, things would have been very different.
So would've is the result in an imaginary past situation. The thing that would have happened if only something else had been different.
Exactly. If this had happened, and which it didn't, then this would have been the result, which it wasn't. It's entirely hypothetical, and it often carries regret or a quiet reflection on how things might have been different. I would have loved to meet her. We would have had such a wonderful time. He would have been so proud of you.
And it connects beautifully to the wish and if only episode we did, doesn't it? I wish I had studied harder. If only I had left earlier. Those are the wishes, and would have shows what the different outcome might have been. If I had studied harder, I would have passed. The two structures belong to the same emotional family.
They really do. Now, what's the second use of would've?
The second use is to make a confident guess or inference about the past. You're not certain, but based on what you know, you're reasonably confident. She would have been about 30 when she moved to Paris. By the time we arrived, they would have already eaten. He would have known about it by then. In all these cases, you're using logic or evidence to work out what probably happened.
And that use sounds so natural. He would have been furious when he found out. They would have waited for us. She would have tried to call. You're imagining the past with confidence.
And it's warm, too. He would have loved this place. She would have laughed at that. These sentences are a way of including people who are no longer there, or of imagining how things might have felt. It's an act of imagination, of empathy.
So to summarize, used to for past habits and states no longer true. I used to live here. I used to be shy. We used to have a cat. Would for repeated past actions only, never past states. Every Friday she would cook a big meal. He would always make us laugh. And would have for imaginary past results. If I had done this, that would have happened. And for confident guesses about the past, she would have been very young then. He would have loved this.
Beautiful. And together, these three expressions give you a very rich, very natural way of talking about the past. Not just what happened, but how it felt, what it meant, what might have been. The past in English isn't just history, it's an emotional landscape.
I love that. Use these expressions, and your English will start to feel alive with memory and meaning.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a comment below. Tell us something you used to do as a child that you don't do anymore. We'd love to hear your memories.
And please like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who's learning English. It really makes a difference for us.
Remember, you are not bad at English. You are just getting better every single day. One conversation at a time. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.